Won't you please come join me for some midnight therapy?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a very special episode of Midnight Therapy. As always, I'm your host, Kat Matthews. Today is going to be a little different than usual. We will not be doing current events. We we covered that last episode. I had to get two in a very short period of time. And this Easter episode was on my priority list. So we are only going to focus on one theme today. And it's probably the most important theme that any human could ever ponder. And I think it's the oldest theme or idea or debate that has gone on in humans' minds since the beginning of time. And it's, what are we doing here? Really, not what job we have or what hobbies we like or what show we watch or what car we drive, but what are we doing here? What is everything doing here? What is this all about? What is this life? Now, the show is Midnight Therapy. That is a big umbrella term. There is a lot of things that fall under what Midnight Therapy is. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's news recaps. Sometimes it's political. Sometimes it's serious. Sometimes it's only comedy. And sometimes it's actually beneficial, for your soul, for your wellness. It's therapeutical. But today on Midnight Therapy, we are doing something historic. We are going to try to tackle the oldest question. What is all of this? Why are we here? Is there a God? That's the big one. Is God real? If so, why? Now, if you are new to the show, I'll explain some things. Some of you, my loyal 30, that know how the show goes. I am not a licensed therapist. I am not a journalist. I have no media or political affiliation. The show is sponsored, but they do not sway my thoughts or have any causal power on what we cover here on the show. I am not a scientist. I am not a religious figure that holds a position of authority in the religious space. I'm not claiming to have any credibility other than being the Cat Matthews, the cowboy in the basement, the Northeast cowboy, the bad guy anyway. You know what I'm saying? I am just a cowboy rambling in the basement here, so you do not have to believe what I'm about to say. You do not have to agree with what I'm about to say. But what I am about to say is my thoughts at this point in my life, considering all the factors and things I've studied and listened to and interacted with and seen, and my anecdotal experience and the objective reality, what I think the answer is to that question about whether God is real or not, and how that ties into Easter. Again, as always, if you disagree or agree, I would love to read those comments. Again, this is an opinion. This is a thought. This is not proof. I don't have proof. I'm just giving you my take. Because this is, after all, my show. Cat Matthews Midnight Therapy on YouTube and Spotify. So, without any more prelude, I'm going to get into it. I think this is a question that many people have looked into and thought about and pondered. Probably some of you watching, but I think a lot of people really don't ever think about it. I think a lot of people are born into a religion and they kind of go through the motions. If you're a Catholic, like I grew up Catholic, you do your sacraments, you go to the CCD, you go to church on Christmas and Easter once in a while, and that's it. And you tell people I'm a Catholic. These people often couldn't tell you one verse from the Bible or any stories or what it means. They know the big stuff. They know, well, Jesus died on the cross, and Christmas is when he was born, and Easter is when he rose. Like, they know that, but they don't really know anything, and they never really wanted to. And that's okay, because this is a big topic. This is actually the scariest, most intimidating topic to jump into. And oftentimes people don't have time nor wish to deep dive in to the oldest, greatest question ever asked, which is fair. I get that. It is far more easy to just go to the church every once in a while and eat the little wafer and go home. I get it. But wherever you are in your journey of asking this question, we're going to go into this like we knew nothing. And that is kind of how I always operate. I consider myself a stoic Christian. Now, if you know what stoicism is, you can look that up. I don't fully subscribe to that idea, but I do like a lot of the parts of stoicism that I can apply to my everyday life. I think that really helps here in the human earthly realm, dealing with humans. Stoicism is great. Now, when it comes to your soul and salvation, I lean more towards Christianity. If I had to pick an organized religion, unfortunately, my ideas, my thoughts don't really fit into any organized religion 100%. You know what I'm saying? I'm a little bit over here, a little bit over there. I think a lot of these religions tell the same story, but they are skewed and altered because of the humans that dabbled with them over the years to fit their image, if you know what I'm saying. If I told you to draw a handsome man and you were a man, you might draw yourself. And that's just how it is. I think a lot of people are drawing themselves into this thing that is bigger than them. You know, any culture go draw God, they're going to draw a God that's like them. You know what I'm saying? And I think that divides this universal thing into smaller sections that are closed off. And we create these odd structures of rules and sense of belonging that excludes people and excludes ideas that probably wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for humans putting them there. So keep that in mind. I'm not discrediting or praising any religion over the other. I do think when we're talking about God, that should be universal. So let's go into that. God, when I define God, let's set this straightforward here. God, because for lack of a better term, that's all we have to call this entity that we all, or that most people on earth believe in. I would say God is an entity outside of time, space, matter, and energy. You could define that scientifically if you wish. That would mean outside of everything, outside of the universe. If that's, if you could fathom that, it's hard to fathom that, but outside of not just the earth, but outside of the universe. It's outside of time, it's outside of space, it's outside of matter, which is everything, and it's outside of energy. So that's what it would have to be. Now, you could go down the rabbit hole of philosophies that talk about God and God existing or God not existing. There's plenty of them. There's a lot of famous arguments. I'm not going to get into that today. We don't have 8 years and 10 dissertations, as I commonly say. You're getting the abridged version here. But that's how I would define God. And this is why I get annoyed. People will say, there's no God. It's just science. Like, science explains everything. They'll say evolution explains all life on Earth. The Big Bang explains the creation of the universe, and that's that. Now, here's why it's so irritating when I hear things like that. Science is us. If you want to believe in science, say we're products of evolution. We are evolved apes. Humans are evolved apes. that speak many languages through a system of moving their lips and tongue to create noises. So we're speaking and writing this language down after thousands and thousands of years of evolution to get this smart. And we are now taking a magnifying glass to the work of, let's say, a creator. Let's just credit a creator for this. So everything is there, whether man discovers it or not. You know what I'm saying? Do you get this? Like, it was there regardless of us discovering it and giving it a name. Like all the elements in nature, we discovered them, made a periodic table, gave it a name, but that existed whether we figured it out or whether we didn't, you know? Same with gravity. Oh, we discovered gravity. Gravity was always there. Just we figured it out. But you're taking a magnifying glass, looking close at work that was already done. Not like we did any of that. We just figured it out, kind of. And we're still kind of figuring it out. Everything you see, the harmony, the nature, the laws, this is a world, whether you want to believe in a creator or not. It appears there is. Now, when we say creator, it sounds a little archaic, like a builder or a painter making the universe. I don't think it's like that. But I do think you are living in a universe that has design, law, order, and I think it's pretty self-evident that that's the case. You know, there are formulas in nature that appear geometric. There are clearly designed. You have spheres orbiting other spheres and systems that work in perfect harmony and stay just close enough to each other. I don't know. If you want to believe it's all chaos, that this happened all from chaos alone and random happenstance, that the Big Bang just happened one day, I feel like that's harder to believe than believing in a creator. Now, again, I'm not saying you should believe in biblical creation, like the words, word for word, that's a historical event. I covered that earlier. That's man getting involved, putting their spin on it. There's tons of creation myths and origin stories out there. I'm not saying you have to believe all those. I'm saying believe in the act of a creation, which would be believing in Big Bang, which you all kind of do, I assume. Even if you don't believe in God, you probably believe in the Big Bang. I think it's hard to believe that the Big Bang just happened out of nowhere and that there was nothing outside of the Big Bang. It would imply that there was something outside of the Big Bang. Is it a coincidence that in the beginning there was light? You know, that might be a way to simplify this very hard to comprehend phenomenon that humans knew happened but couldn't explain how or when. I feel like that is easy to pass down. You know what I'm saying? Now, if I had to say, oh, in the beginning there was an implosion and a giant explosion of stars and fire and plasma, and it over billions of years turned into, that's kind of hard to explain to children and illiterate people. These stories of the Bible and other books, other religions, a lot of people look at them, they look at it very naively. They go, oh, look how crude these are. These are so simple. There's no way this happened. Did you ever think that this whole realm we live in goes through many resets where it gets wiped out and we build again and wiped out and we build again, and war and famine and destruction and death? And these stories have to be made so simple that they can be orally passed down through generations of the illiterate, of children, different languages. You need these stories to be able to transcend time. Now, if I have to give you a very long, elaborate story, you're probably going to forget some details. But the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve, I probably could have told that story when I was 6 years old. Pretty to the point, you know? I could probably get all those details. And if I didn't understand the message, somebody else would get the message. That's on purpose. That's by design. I think they realize that difficult, hard to understand stories get lost in the ether, or those books get burnt. But the simple nursery rhyme ones that are harmless don't. And it's up to you to figure out and decipher the hidden meaning in those stories, which is all the more reason I find it interesting that Jesus spoke in parables. that could be harmless as well. It's like it's not saying anything. He's like, when they're like, "Oh, are you the son of God?" Like he doesn't really answer. You know what I'm saying? Because that's all intentional. When the stories are all parables, it's like, okay, well, these are just nonsense nursery rhymes. But if you're, I don't know, intellectually or spiritually aware enough to understand what's going on, then maybe you get something out of it. You know what I'm saying? It's up to the interpretation. It's debatable what it means. That's why it transcended. Now, that's kind of my point about science. Don't worship science as religion. Humans figuring out what was already there is not as big of an accomplishment as we like to believe. It's big for us in our little world, in our little lifetime, if we live 100 years at best. But it's not that big compared to how big it is that this exists, whether we figure it out or not. I used to have an analogy about an alien spaceship. If an alien spaceship crashed, we might be able to get in it and figure out how it works a little. Like we might be able to fly it a little, but we have no idea how it was built and we have no idea what's going on. It's like if you brought a car back to the 1500s, they might be able to turn the key and even drive it, but they have no idea how an internal combustion engine works. They have no idea how the braking system works or the computer system or any of that, but they could probably figure it out. We're figuring it out here. Kind of have some medicine. We kind of have some buildings. We kind of know a little bit about the elements and maybe a little bit about frequency, but we're just scratching the surface of what's actually out there. And we'll always be out there whether we ever figure it out or not. You know, there's probably multiple dimensions. We're living in 3. We have 3 dimensions here. If God is outside of time, space, matter, and energy, our feeble 3D selves, carbon-based beings, aren't even getting close to scratching the surface of what's out there. So don't worship science, is what I'm saying. It's only going to get you so far. And either way, it always stems back to worshiping something. Science, it became like religion, like believe and trust the science. How weird is that? Believe and trust the science. Science is supposed to be targeting the inquisitive nature of man, you know, being curious, critically thinking, questioning, arguing, testing. Not a religion where you just believe what we say because we're right. That defeats the purpose. And that's why religion gets a lot of flack. Science falls in the same category at times. Now, this is where my belief comes in. I do believe personally that God, the entity outside of time, space, matter, and energy, he's almost, let's say he, okay? I'm not gendering God. We could say it, we could say he, whatever. But God is creating this realm. Now, who knows if this is the only realm he ever created, or if this, who knows, there might be endless realms. But he creates our universe, Big Bang, boom. Now, I'm going to anthropomorphize God. I'm going to give God human-like characteristics only for this example. Obviously, God is not a human with a beard up in the clouds. So we think, but God, let's say, moving his hand like this, that could have been billions of years. That could have been the Big Bang, planet formation, Earth formation, dinosaurs, meteor, woolly mammoth, blah, blah, blah. And then when it got to the point where this all-knowing outside of our realm entity thought it would be right, stopped. This is metaphorically, stopped and said, okay, this is where I'm going to do the experiment. And I do believe the experiment happens when the human being is ready to become the image of God. So I think the realm is created, Big Bang, to us, to our feeble little minds. That was billions of years ago. It could have been a second ago. We have no idea. We have no idea. But at one point, God decides to bestow a soul to the human being. And we call that event the Garden of Eden, where the experiment happens, the first experiment where God goes, I'm going to see if these creatures could be like me, and not like him in the sense of all powerful, but bestow the values onto them. And he started very easy at first. Creates this creature, gives it a soul, says, I want to know if the soul is pure. Now, granted, before that, we understand there are these human and angel-like representations of good and evil, and I do believe they exist. Positive and negative energy, good and evil. The qualities of good, the qualities of evil. You have anger, lust, greed, revenge, and you have benevolence, and you have kindness, and you have empathy and humility. They all exist in this realm. That exists too. You know the story of the fallen angels. You know the story of Lucifer, of course. Metaphorically, I think it's good to understand what that means. It means that spirit of I can be better than God and my ego is better than God and I could overthrow God, that exists. It got cast out of the realm of heaven, which is outside of this realm, and put into this realm. And now it lives down on earth and in the universe with us. And it's looking for people to convert because it was cast out of the true kingdom, let's say. And now it's down here with us, telling us that we know more than God, telling us that who cares about sin, telling us that God is overrated, telling us that it's better to be sinful and it's better to go for revenge and it's better to live it up here and who cares about the consequences. That's because misery loves company. And the devil, or Lucifer, whatever you want to call it, or Satan, is down here with us, and he's very relatable to us. Now, God, on the other hand, creates this garden, knowing that that creature is down here with us, or that entity is down here with us that can take any form. And in the Garden of Eden story, you hear the story involving the apple and the snake, right? So that's God's first of many experiments. It's like, let's see what humans will do. And what do? They fell short pretty quick. They went right to the evil. So it made God believe, let's say, that humans are more susceptible to evil and temptation. So he acts accordingly. If you believe in the stories or if they're just metaphors, I'm assuming they're just metaphors. I'm not saying this is historic. Again. So then, just like Lucifer, the humans are shunned out of the kingdom on earth, the garden, and they're into the real world. And they have sin now and shame. And they fail the first test. Not going to give you a Bible lesson here, but then humans go through several other tests. As you know, read the Bible, many experiments going on. You have the Tower of Babel, you have the flood, you have the Ten Commandments. He's guiding man along the burning bush. He's communicating to man in the beginning, not through a language, probably through a feeling that a human had to translate into a language, which is why there's spin on it, which is why they talk about their people and it's for us and it's for me and do this and do that with the lamb and all that. That's the human of that time putting a spin on this feeling that came over them, because I don't think God communicates through language. I think you feel it inside you. And if anyone has ever felt anything like that, you know what I'm talking about. You are converting it to a language. It's not coming to you in the King's English. But I do think many more experiments went on. Humans are essentially this vessel with a soul inside. You are half man, half God. The man is the beast that's susceptible to every form of temptation and lives on this earth like a beast. The God side is the soul. You have that duality in you all the time. It's the yin, the yang. It's up to you to figure out which side you're more in tune with. And I think for most of your life, it's healthier to have a balance, to have both. It's the only way to survive. It's the only way to survive is to have both. There's the old Native American myth of the two wolves inside you, and people often get that wrong. It's like, well, which wolf wins, the good wolf or the bad wolf? And people say the one you feed. It's like, no, actually, you have to feed both of them. They both have to live. One keeps the other on its toes all the time. And if the one was fed more than the other, The other one would just be lurking in the background, waiting to attack. So if you're too in tune with God, your sins are waiting for you. And if you're too in tune with your sins, God's waiting for you. And it's got to be balanced. There has to be balance in life. I truly believe that in every form, everything in moderation, at least while you're here. Now, humans keep failing. They never learn. And this is where Jesus comes into things. I believe the final test of man in this realm, granted, in this specific realm of this specific universe and earth and timeline, there could be multiple. This could have happened a million times before. We have no idea. But in our version of it, if you're watching this now and you're a human in this timeline, this was the final test for this particular experiment. And this is why they call it the greatest story ever told. Well, at least this is why I think they call it the greatest story ever told. It's so different than any other story. It's actually so interesting if you look at it this way. This is my unique take on the matter. I believe that God, again, the entity outside of time, space, matter, and energy, decided to truly know if humans are redeemable. I feel like this whole test was just to see if humans are redeemable. You know, if a beast on that planet can encompass God in some way, and if God would win over evil. The final test to do that was that entity, God, entering his own experiment as a man. Now, think about that. If you were the one running the experiment and you're outside of everything, you have all power, you're above the rat race, you're above the maze, and then you enter it as a rat. You're in the rat race, you're in the maze looking for the cheese. You're one of the rats that you've been examining for all these years. God entered his own realm as a man to see if he himself as a man would fall short like all men do. Now, this is where it gets crazy. Some will say, how could God fall short? He's God. Yes, we get it. But he entered as a man and became more in touch with the man side. Remember, I told you the yin and the yang. You have both. God had both as well. We all have both. But after a while, it wore him down a little, I feel. I think he had the power to do these things and he used it accordingly, if you believe in the stories. He used miracles here and there, but he wasn't changing things crazy. He wasn't acting like, say, a Greek god or the mythology gods, like destroying things and building certain people up. Very modest little miracles here and there that were strategically chosen to be impactful. He had 12 followers, didn't do anything too crazy. You know what I'm saying? Was very modest, lived like a man did, carpenter. But then when it was time to do the big part in the play, his role, the big role in this play, is where I think the most interesting thing happens. God is on earth walking as a man. And God gets to see firsthand what men are like. And it's not good. Of course, you know the whole story. The crucifixion, the whipping, the suffering, the passion. Now, humans could not relate to the overwhelming power of God itself. So coming in a human form is the most relatable way to speak to humans. Again, when God spoke to people in the past, it was probably too overwhelming and they got it wrong translating it to human. You know, from that realm to the human realm, they add their own little things. They get a little confused. It was too overwhelming. It was a traumatic experience. You know how it is. So God's like, I'm actually going to come to them as a human and speak to them as a human. And if they don't understand that, then I can't help them. So it comes as a human and then dies in a tragic way. And the whole time, because Christ was God, but was also human, knew it had to be done. It was foretold. It was a prophecy that was being fulfilled. It was his mission. He had to do it, his passion. And he comes in this form of man. It's very different. He's preaching things about humility and forgiveness and redemption. That these things are not really being talked about at this time. and it ended up getting him killed. You could debate that all you want, if the Jews told Pilate to do it or they forced his hand, whatever, but either way, he gets crucified. And this is why I think it's the greatest story ever told. When is it done? When is it accomplished? Remember the line, I don't know if I'm misquoting it, but he goes, it is accomplished, or it is done. Right before that, it's the best, most important part of the Gospels and the Bible and the whole story. He says, Father, why have you forsaken me? And what that is God himself doubting God. God as a man doubting God. And in that moment, God himself realized that man is just flawed. Man will always be flawed. And even when I was a man, I doubted myself. And I think that is why it's the greatest story ever told, that God doubted God when he was a man. A human on this earth will always be burdened by being half beast, half God. And even when God himself was a man, he doubted God at that one moment on the cross. And then that's when it was accomplished. He goes, I get it. These humans, I have to forgive them. They do not know what they do, but they can find me and they can find my teachings. And this man coming down, me as a man, is probably the best way to get that message across. So that is where we're living now. We're in the post-Jesus era, the last experiment. And we have our little time here to see if we ever get it, if we ever figure it out. We still celebrate Easter. We still celebrate the rising and the whole story. You know that. But if you get anything from my take, my specific unique take here, is that I believe that we have been in experiments, tests this whole time. And that God coming to earth as a man was the final test. And God himself realized that as a man, he too would question God, which is what we all do. We all fall short. We all sin. We are all Peter. We will all deny God. But the whole idea of this final test and Christ is redemption. If you believe in the principles preached by Christ, the forgiveness, humility, redemption, you will be able to be saved and forgiven. That is the true hope. That's what we all live for. I think the standards of a God being all powerful and all knowing is too much for anyone to live up to, especially us. I think this religion transcended eras for many reasons, some not so good, some good, because it offers you a chance, accepting that you're not perfect and never will be perfect. But there is a chance for you to be saved. When they say if you accept Jesus as God, right? I don't know if that necessarily means to worship Jesus. I think it means to live by his teachings. You know what I'm saying? And I think the teachings get convoluted as well, where it's like a mass assembly eating the wafer in a it looks like an assembly line in the rows and the big temples and the churches. They're all gold and stained glass. That was never what it was about either. It was break bread and drink wine with your friends and spread my word, spread the teachings I tell you. Forgive one another, live by the sword, die by the sword. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what this was. It was God as man speaking to you in real time, speaking to fellow humans in real time, what he believed God's vision for us is, what God wants out of us. And it seems to be, if the story is true, seems to be a message of forgiveness and loving your fellow man and redemption and not vengeance and evil and lust. That seems what it is. That seems like what it always was. And of course, Rome and all these other nations and the Crusades, they ran with it and used it for their own benefit. But don't forget what it originally was. Don't forget what it could be to you. Who is anyone to tell you what it is? Whatever it means to you, it means. And this is my take on it. I don't know if it's true. It's my take right now at this age. It could change. Who knows? I'm just giving you a take that maybe you haven't heard before, or maybe you might find interesting. But I believe Jesus spoke messages of eternal truths of the universe in a way that was easy for us to understand because it was a human saying them. You know what I'm saying? I believe we are savable now after the new covenant. I believe now we live in the final experiment. We have all the pieces of the puzzle. Let's see if we're savable. And if not, if God ever deems us not, and we completely fall astray from the teachings, I believe there'll just be another reset and they'll start over again. And I believe this could be the millionth attempt. Who knows? We have no idea. We know nothing. We have no idea. This could be just a realm generated for us. It could be just this earth. You have no idea. Space could just be a backdrop. Very nice, beautiful backdrop, but this might be it. This might be the realm we're in. Might be it. You have no idea. We have no idea, and it's okay. Now, the devil, like I said, Lucifer, whatever you want to call it, the fallen angel, that's here, alive and well on this planet. Now, it's not a guy with horns. It's not a red guy with a pitchfork with horns. It's an entity as well. It's takes every form, many forms. It's when somebody commits a terrible act. It's an argument. It's deciding to cheat on your spouse. It's deciding to punch your friend in the face. It's every little thing. It's sending a mean text. It's wishing people fail in life. Like, it's always around you, and it takes so many forms. Now, you have to be careful if you let that take over you. You have to be a converter in this life, an energy converter. When life is giving you bad energy, you have to take it in, convert it, and give good back. Don't take in the bad, hang on to it, and then give bad out to undeserving. That does nothing. You're supposed to take bad in, recycle it, convert it, and let good out. And when people give you good, it's good to give the good back. That is kind of your goal here on this life. There's no rule book. There's no owner's manual. There's a few old books, a few old religions that try to give people a moral compass here. Now is the time of Easter. Maybe you might want to reflect on this. Like, what am I doing here? What is the whole point for me? What am I supposed to do here? What am I supposed to believe? That's really up to you. If you want the simplest message I could give you, stay positive and do the right thing. Now, stay positive is pretty straightforward, but doing the right thing is very situational. And I can't give you the answer. You kind of have to just know what that is for every situation. But I do think if you need a moral compass, Christianity provides, or at least the teachings of Christ, the words written in red, provides a very good moral compass for you to have. Whether it's real or not, whether it happened or not, that could be up to you. You don't have to believe. You could believe extremely. The ideas are still beneficial to us. Kind of gives us a little bit of a owner's manual to this human experience here. And I think it's beneficial to have that at least somewhat in your mind at all times. Thinking about, would this be the right thing to do? Considering that story. I feel a lot of things happen to us in this life, but I don't think any of them are being crucified. And I think who we are not even remotely, we're not even remotely as important to God in the form of a man. So keep that in mind. Are you God? No, we're nothing. We're just an irrelevant person here. And what is happening to you? Is it being crucified? Probably not. So are we really suffering that bad? And even if the story's not real, you can learn from a story that's not real, right? You could learn a great story from A Christmas Carol, and I don't think that's real. You know, you could learn from It's a Wonderful Life. I don't think that's real either. That didn't happen. It was a movie. It doesn't mean you can't learn from it. This whole thing might be a simulation. Doesn't mean you didn't learn from it, didn't mean you didn't enjoy it. I think we need to stop pretending we know things. We don't know a damn thing. You could feel a lot, you could believe a lot, but we don't know anything. T.S. Eliot, great quote. I have to use words when I talk to you. I believe that's right. I have to use words when I speak to you, or something like that. We're bound by language. We're bound by words here. We are not a transcendental being. We are a very human, living creature on this planet that might happen to have a little God in it, a soul in it. So do all you could to stay in tune to it. That's all I could say, especially during this Easter season, whether you believe or not. Let the spirit of the time, I don't know, affect you, even if you're not a devout Catholic, you know? You don't have to be. And on an ending note, I think it's better to believe that there is more and believe that there's a God that created everything and is with us always if we wish. It's everywhere and nowhere at the same time. I think that's better than believing that this is all just random chaos that happened out of nowhere. I think it's actually harder to believe that this is just random chaos that happened out of nowhere. I think it's actually easier to believe in the God idea. You know what I'm saying? Now, that was a lot to unpack. This was not a lighthearted comedy episode. This was more of a deep dive therapeutic episode debating the hardest question ever asked, which is the existence of God. I would love to hear some opinions on that, particularly the one about my take saying that God entered his own experiment as man and then doubted God when God was a man. I think that is the craziest thing that resonates with me. I mean, now you see this story is told over and over again in the Disney movies and other movies. It's the same story. It's the Christ story over and over again, the redemption arc. And a lot of people have commented on that. But recently we watched the Squid Game season 2, and I have to bring this up. If you know that the front man or the guy in charge of the whole game enters the Squid Game. And I thought that was so interesting because I had this thought about Jesus for a while. But he enters his own game to see how people would treat him, to see how he would do in this very dangerous game. I thought that was interesting. That's almost paying homage to the original story, the story of us all, that we are all falling short on this earth, and we always will. Is it okay that you fall short? Don't hate the sinner, hate the sin. Are we all savable? Are we all redeemable? That's the question here. Now, most of us will spend our lives never pondering this until the bitter end. Once we get sick, we get some diagnosis. You know, our kids are grown, moved away, and we're alone at the retirement home. Then you might start pondering what this is all about. And it gets scary because it's like a test you didn't study for. So I encourage you all, even if you are younger viewers out there, start looking into this. Start having an idea of what you believe or what you don't believe. You know, I will never disrespect someone's opinion as long as they could justify why they have it. That's for religion, that's for politics, that's for any issue. If you have a reason why you believe it that's sound and valid, I respect. But if you're just believing or not believing all willy-nilly, that's no way to go through this life. You have a very interesting gift here. If you're alive and watching this show, you have a very interesting gift. You are one out of a trillion sperm that fertilized an egg, and you're here probably breathing and talking and having a job and experiencing Earth and seasons and the beauty of nature. That's huge. And you should enjoy it. And you should probably realize that it wasn't just a odd coincidence. And if it was, then you got lucky about 800 times. And that's very interesting. So with that, let's say it was a coincidence. With that, what are you doing with it? Are you leaving this place any better than you came into it? Are you affecting people's lives for the better? Are you spreading positivity? Are you a converter, or do you only put bad energy out there into the world? Do you believe in qualities like redemption and humility and compassion? Or do you only take? Are you only evil? Do you only lust? Are you greedy? Do you want revenge? Are you prideful? Ponder these things because I know you have a job and a car and kids to take care of and things to do, but at the end of the day, you're born into this experiment. You're a participant. You're like an actor in the play. You don't really have the script. You didn't write the script, but you're still on stage and you're acting. You're acting in your way. You're putting on your performance. And you're going to be with certain people for a couple scenes, but eventually people are going to leave the scene and you're not going to have scenes with them anymore. And then eventually your scene will be over and the play will be over. So if you're still out there acting on the stage, you don't have this power to control the script a lot of times. You really don't. But you can control how you portray the script, how you act. That's what makes you a good actor. Now, of course, you didn't ask to be born into this play, and you really didn't ask for the script and the cast that you're with. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But all you could do is put on the best performance you can. That's all I'm asking you to do. And for those that aren't with us anymore, I like to call it a dodgeball game. When you played dodgeball as a kid, you're in the game. Everybody who's out of the game, you may be sad that they're out of the game, that they got out. What are they doing, though? Think back to when you were a kid. What are they doing on the bleachers? Cheering you on like crazy. They want you to win so bad. What are you going to do? Focus on them and say, I can't wait to join you on the bleachers? No. Win. You're still in. They wish they were in. They're cheering for you. They want you to win. Yet you're in the arena. The man in the arena. Now win. Don't focus. You'll be on the sidelines before you know it. Not to get all dark here, but you're going to be on the bleachers of the dodgeball game before you know it. Your only hope is that you can have someone to cheer on that's still in the game. Maybe. But you will be there. It'll be like that. This is a short ride here. You all have a ticket to Disneyland. Enjoy Disneyland. You're here. You already have the ticket. You could hit every ride. You could get the big turkey leg. You could have fun. Or you could mope around and be sad and do nothing and ruin everyone else's day. Or you could laugh with Goofy and enjoy it. I'm encouraging you to be positive on this short trip here and ponder what this short trip even is once in a while. And I believe Easter is a good time to do that, whether you believe in it or not. Now, again, I'm not disrespecting anyone's religion. These are just the thoughts of a rambling cowboy in the basement. But if anything resonated with you, positively or negatively, and you agree or disagree, please comment, like, share, subscribe. Tell your grandma, put this on the TV at Easter dinner tomorrow. I did want to get this out. I was quick with the 2 episodes this week. You're welcome. We'll talk about heavy topics like this every once in a while. Covering the existence of God is a tough one, I will say, but it is Midnight Therapy, and we are not limited on this show. This show, as always, is brought to you in part by Jack's Pub and Eatery and Three Saints Barbershop, located in historic downtown Jessup, Pennsylvania. I was hanging out with Mike the Barber at Jack's last night, which was a very fun time. Had a very interesting time with him. A lot of laughs. This Easter holiday, the bars are always crazy. People like drinking on the Good Friday, and I think it's Good Friday, the Holy Saturday, and all that. But remember, there is more to life than just earthly delights. Once in a while, you should ponder what this is all about. And that's what I encourage you to do today. I will be back regularly next week. Maybe we'll have some guests. Maybe we won't. Always more to talk about. And there's never enough time. So with that being said, at least spend some time with your family and loved ones and friends on Easter, even if you don't believe in it fully. Talk to the older people, get their perspective on it. I'm telling you, your perspective changes as you get older, as you lose your age and your strength and your health. Certain things become more important to your life. And you will figure that out one way or another. If you have to touch the stove to get burnt and learn the lesson the hard way, you can, or you could take it from me that you are going to ask yourself about God as you get older. Trust me. So start practicing now. Start getting an idea of it now before you are cramming for a test. God forbid. I don't want that to happen, but say you're at the end and you have to figure this all out and you're bound by time now. That gets scary. Do it while you have friends and family around and talk to them about it. And I don't know, get the debate going. You're here on this weird realm. Don't you want to try to understand what it's all about? You might never get there, but that's half the fun. So, with that being said, as always, stay curious, my friends. Good night.